Yo, 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 yo. What up, though? This is your boy, Chris B. Daniels, and you're once again on another episode of Show and Talk. All right, so before I get started, I'd just like to wish a good evening to everybody. I hope everybody's doing good. You know what I'm saying? Um, the movie we're going to be talking about tonight is something that I just seen recently that I haven't seen in years. That movie is Undisputed 2. Now, normally, if I do a movie that's a franchise, I usually cover all the films. But since I haven't seen the first one in so long, I decided to go ahead and start off with the second one. Um, so this movie stars Michael Jai White and Scott Adkins. You know what I'm saying? And Michael Jai White's character was actually in the first film. George Chambers, he was a boxer, but he was played by Ving Rhames in that one. So I don't know if anybody else noticed this, but these movies kind of have a pattern to it. You know, the first one was Wesley Snipes, Ving Rhames. Wesley Snipes' character Monroe is actually an inmate already in the prison that Ving Rhames' character was transferred to. You know what I'm saying? I guess so those two can duke it out. You know what I mean? So I don't know if it was framed for violating a woman or what it was. Because, like I said, I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but he kind of serves as the villain in that movie. So, in this movie, George Chambers is actually the main protagonist, and Scott Adkins' character, Yuri Boyka, is the antagonist in this film. You know what I'm saying? And so, after this film, Boyka becomes the protagonist why they have a new antagonist in that movie. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty much the pattern. You know what I mean? You got the main character, villain, no, main character, villain goes from villain to main character. You know what I'm saying? So on and so forth. But anyway, in this movie right here, we see our boy, George Chambers. He's actually filming a commercial. And I guess he keeps botching it or he's getting annoyed, you know what I'm saying, by the cameraman and all that, the people who's, recording him or whatever, the directors and all of that. But, he walks off set and he's actually, cocky in this one, just like he was in the first movie. You know what I'm saying? So it's one night where his manager and a bunch of other guys are at this dinner waiting on him. I guess it's like a business meeting or something like that. So his manager Phil's wondering where he is. And then you see these dudes break into his room and basically plant cocaine inside his Bible. And so the reason why they did that is because they want to get him into the same prison that Yuri Boyka's in because he's a championship boxer and everything, but Boyka is the champion of that particular prison. So, and I gotta say, they did a good job making up Scott Adkins, you know what I'm saying, making Scott Adkins look the way he did, you know what I'm saying? Because when I first saw the movie, I didn't even know it was him. Between the accent and then the way they made him up and all that, yo, if you wasn't really big on Scott Adkins like that, or, you never really seen his movies and stuff like that, you probably wouldn't know that was him. Because like I said, I didn't. So when George Chambers finally returns to the hotel, the dudes, they come out, they try to jump him, and they're actually successful in knocking him out. You know what I mean? Which when I first saw the movie, I thought they was gonna job to him, but because it's Michael Jai White. But anyway, he gets knocked out, and so he wakes up because he meets his manager downstairs before he actually heads up to his room. So when he gets up there, he gets jumped and they knock him out. So when the police shows up, they searching the room and everything, and they're questioning him as to what happened or why would they attack him or whatever. So one of the cops, come out of the room with the Bible, and then they asking George if that's his Bible, and he says yes. And then they show him the cocaine that's in the book. But, he tells them that's not his. So he winds up getting arrested. And he knows that he was set up. So when he first gets to the prison, right, his attitude is messed up. You know what I'm saying? So for a while he's in there, he's still cocky and brash. And like he's the only one that's not really shook the boyka. But his cellmate, is pretty much telling him how things go down in there or whatever. And he becomes his corner man or whatever. Because at first he refuses to fight. And so, they're just doing things to him, basically torturing him. You know what I mean? Just doing all kinds of stuff to him because, he keeps getting in fights and everything. And then, he fights Boyka several different times. Well, a fight breaks out between those two several different times before, he finally agrees to fight. And the only reason why he agreed to fight, because this guy named Gaga, who's basically managing Boyka, you know what I'm saying? He's like like the top dog or whatever. And so, George Chambers, he finally agrees to fight. And so, he's watching, Boyka fighting his matches and all that. So Boyka's going extra hard in his matches now because he knows that George Chambers is watching him. And so at this time, he's still a boxer, George Chambers' character. So, he's still just a boxer. And then it's one guy named Crot, you know what I mean? He's in the wheelchair. He, finally decides to step in because after the fight took place between Boyka and George Chambers the first time, he was actually getting the best of Boyka. You know what I'm saying? Because Boyka agreed to, fight with just his, fist or whatever. He calls himself the most complete fighter in the world. But, he winds up getting his jaw tapped until his corner man, a.k.a. cellmate, gives him the water bottle. Gives George Chambers his water bottle. And then shortly after he takes a sip, he starts to feel funny. And Boyka actually wins that fight. But we come to find out later, obviously, he was drugged. So this upsetted Boyka. You know what I'm saying? He killed one of his men or whatever. And they're still torturing George Chambers because, the attitude is still there and everything. So between him being thrown in the hole, and then what really did it is when they chained him up outside. You know what I'm saying? He was outside in the cold, no jacket, no nothing, until these prisoners, they walked up to him and they started feeling bad for him. So one of them gives him the toboggan, one gives him, the jacket and, to warm him up and everything. So when the guards see this, they line everybody up and they want to know, who did that, who's basically looking out for them. They're upset at the fact that these prisoners were looking out for them. So one of the guys steps forward, and then next thing you know, every single prisoner steps forward. But since they did that, they all had to, stand outside in the cold with no jackets or nothing. And then afterwards, George Chambers' character finally comes down, and they bring him back inside. So earlier I said what convinced him to fight is that they was going to release him. But what really, because I guess it touched him or whatever, you know what I'm saying? It kind of had him looking at, his cellmates, well, not cellmates, but his fellow prisoners differently. So what really convinced him to fight was them. And he agreed to fight, you know what I'm saying, at that point for the second time. As long as the prisoners outside get jackets. You know what I'm saying? So they all got jackets. And this time, those prisoners were actually on George Chambers' side, rooting for him to win. So, the guy Crot in the wheelchair is finally training George Chambers to use, something other than boxing. So he's training him, because he was an ex soldier or whatever. And I guess he earned himself, time, like mad time in prison for what he did. You know what I'm saying? I guess he killed. Man, can't talk. But anyway, I guess he had killed a prison guard or whatever. So that, you know, I guess it earned him extra time. I'm trying to remember, but he had a lot of time. He had got a lot of time. So he was looking at the picture of his niece when Chambers walked in. So he decides to explain to Chambers what happened to him. And, you know, he has a picture of his niece because, you know, Chambers asked about her, but he's never met her. So, you know, he's training Chambers to fight, you know what I'm saying? Because at this point, Chambers' cellmate hung himself for what he did, you know what I'm saying? So he's pretty much out of the picture. And Crot is training him for the second fight. So the second fight comes up, and I got to say, the fight choreography in this movie was excellent. Scott Adkins' performance was excellent. Michael Josh's performance was top notch. You know what I'm saying? And so George Chambers finally gets the best of Boyka by breaking his leg. You know what I'm saying? In one of the holes that Crot had trained him in. And so afterwards, you know, he's finally, you know, well, Gaga, he's a man of his word, and he's going to release him. But George Chambers, well, he gave him, you know, his share of the profits or whatever. And so Chambers actually made a deal because he remembered everything Crot was telling him. So the deal was he was going to give all that money, I guess, to, you know, the warden, or I forgot who the dude was he was talking to. You know what I'm saying? But he gave him the suitcase full of money, and then he got Crot out of there just so he could meet his niece. And that's pretty much the end right there. So by the time he got out, he was pretty much a different person. You know what I'm saying? Because when he got in there, he wanted nothing to do with nobody. You know what I'm saying? It was all about himself. But by the time he got out, between the prisoners getting jackets and getting Crot out so he can meet his niece, yeah, he was a different person. So that's pretty much it right there. And then next week we'll come back and talk about Undisputed 3, because that was a good one too. But in my opinion, it seems like a TV movie. I can't even front. The quality of the first two movies look better than that one, in my opinion. But don't get it twisted. The fight choreography and everything in that movie was great. So come back to that and we'll talk about that one. But if I got to give this a score, I will give Undisputed 2 an 8 out of 10. The movie was excellent. I was not bored at all. The cinematography was great. The acting was great, you know what I'm saying? So, and the fight choreography. I know I can't mention it enough. It was awesome. So if you haven't seen it, Undisputed 2, Last Man Standing. But if you're checking this out, I don't know what I'm so tongue twisted tonight, y'all. But if you're watching this on YouTube, give me a like, comment, and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. You guys have a good night. All right? Peace.
The feeling is mutual. Come in, take a seat, share your thoughts with each, and preach it when you speak, so we can share kinetic energy throughout the brainwaves. Keep us balanced out and all on the same stage.